will to be is the most precious asset. Will to be. In fact, if you studied Tantra now, you've studied Tantra with me now for a number of years, so you know the importance within that trinity. Will, knowledge, action. Will is the face of Shiva. Will. Knowledge is the instrumentality of knowing. That's Shakti. And action is that what translates into the world. You see? So will here is inferior to nothing. The will here in itself is an expression of Shiva. So will to be, this is where Nietzsche hit it straight, 2020 vision, straight in the heart of the matter.
I am not so sure about the question actually, but it has something to do with where to place my attention in terms of how do I find full expression to my gifts and my talents. And like what happened in the last year, for example, was I was in a deep study of astrology to find out like what that is, what you were talking about earlier. And then I'm living now in a kind of spiritual community place in the mountains, Switzerland, very beautiful space, and we have lots of retreat guests and very open people. And then it just started that people came to me, want to know about astrology, and I feel that, wow, amazing, like that knowledge almost get poured out of me. And I feel there's some kind of intuition that I have that's very natural to go that way. Yeah, and I'm in that in-between where I feel like, well, there's this talent or that, and I don't know where to, you know, how to make that choice or to pick that one or get there or just be open and just try to create as much bliss in me as I can, and then it will spill over, you know. Yeah. And I noticed that I'm kind of in my head about it and confusing myself again and again, or doing these loops.
I think you're doing pretty well, and that's a beautiful decision to study, to choose the field of study, something from Vedic, you know, one of the Vedic disciplines, and Jyotish in this respect has, well, supremely placed, because Jyotish in fact is a sadhana in its own right. The study of Jyotish can in itself be a sadhana. Any study of any Vedic discipline, any Vedic science can be a sadhana in its own right, because it has this, each of them have these elements of discipline and knowledge, and it is the knowledge that sets us free. So you're doing really, really well with this with regard to that. The only thing, of course, you need to truly study it. You need to dedicate time so that you truly delve into it, not just at the level of, let's say, particularly if this is to become a livelihood, if this is where people will come for consultations, you want to make sure that you don't just lean on what may rise as an intuition, and I would speak to that separately, so that to draw that line, cautious line between interpreting, you see, someone's chart based on insights that are within the tradition, which all could be traced to Parasara Horashastri, the volume, the treatise on Jyotish, that put together by sage Parashara, who was the father of Vedavyasa, the legendary sage, right? As you probably know. So these treatises, of course, it's that gives birth to this science itself. And there are many, many books out there, and I'm sure there are workshops and classes where you can study astrology in greater depth, because that's what it meant to be done. For your own sake, for yourself, maybe introductory level will suffice, but in no way if you want to offer this as services to others, because then you are running the danger of, effectively speaking, how shall I put it? How shall we put it? It's that imposter, so that the imposter syndrome here does not become reality. So therefore, beginners, practitioners who begin their practice are actually advised to lean on as much knowledge itself and structure as they can before they begin to gain true insights. And astrology in particular is important because whatever can be said, right, can have a tremendous impact that affects people's lives. Do you see what I mean? Because they will receive this as something in the charts. And guess what? More experienced astrologers, and I was privileged enough to even meet some of them, when they see something in the chart that may indicate something which may sound very negative, they would not even voice that. There is this rule of thumb. Do not give that, whatever potential that has, an actuality by pronouncing it. Even if you see it, find a way to avert that potential danger through navigating this someone through ways of how this can be addressed. You see? Whereas a lot of astrologers who are, let's say, just acquainted with the science, think that the more they say, the better it is. See? It's not up to astrologer to give insights, is to give simply the situation, a map. See? Like you open a map and you're saying, so this is the map for the layman, laywoman. The map sometimes could be difficult to read. What's this? What's that? Don't worry, this is the lake, this is the road, this is the forest, elevation, this is that. You see, this is north, this is south, these are the directions, okay? So you teaching them, you're showing them what the map already shows. See? So this is the road. This road is paved. I know. You can zoom it in. It's a well-traveled road. This is blessed. This is off-road, off-terrain, but still can go through. This is jungle. No need to go there. So this is just a word of, let's say, caution, because astrology here, right? You don't want to enmesh your own karma in getting involved into too much interpretation of people's potentials in terms of what awaits them. Therefore, I would say it's safe territory to simply give them the outlook based on birth chart and current transits. Birth chart may be even better. Just learn to read the charts. So already you're doing great, you see? So now, how to express yourself, what to do. Yes, at some point, whatever we do in life, like in certain cultures, like You have to practice something always. There has to be something that you are good at. Something that you're good at. In days gone by, everyone had to, if they are being brought up in privileged circumstances, you have to learn to ride, use weapon, whichever weapon that is, fencing, right? Be courteous in your manners, play at least one instrument, whatever else, singing. So these things were expected of nobility. Otherwise, what a waste. Times have changed. We live in a time of flux. So Vedic studies is what makes you a noble man, because it brings nobility to your spirit. You see? It hones you. So whatever discipline you or anyone else want to pick up will never be a waste of time. It can become either a rich addition to your sadhana. It potentially can bring the possibility for some form of livelihood if you are doing this really, truly out of calling. Other than that, how to express all this, like all this, let's say, what you're swelled with. You just have to be tuned to this, what rises there, and not be afraid of ideas that may surface, insights. This is where your journal, your diaries, you can write it down. Some extraordinary insights, or maybe ordinary insights. Where would you like to see yourself? You see? It's very different from forgetting who you are and and hanging from the tree. This is not the path here. See? There's a very big difference. For a renunciate, it's all finished. We walk on life fully. We walk on life with the slam of the door or with quietly closing the door. And if we're honest, that's all there is. But where are you going to walk? And where any of us can walk? Out where? This is why I said, hanging off the tree. So therefore, it's best to stick around and hone whatever gifts you are either came into this world with, or you feel you are eager to discover. You see? So for that you need to be also courageous to pronounce these intentions, these inner bubbling desires, because up until the life force in the body is driven by this. No need to pretend. During the awakening, during the radical phase, and it's a phase, there is a phase when all this is out of the window. There is. It can be very, very disorienting. There's no propensity to succeed. Everything is deflated. Why? There are reasons for that, internal reasons, because the prana flows now through the internal pathways. If prior to that prana was externalized, expressing itself, prana was expressing and expressing outwardly. So therefore our days, our lives, our time passing was filled with aspirations. Suddenly all these aspirations are deflated, gone. But it's a phase, you see? Because the pranic flow now is internalized. So the language is different. Instead of expressing it outwardly, it flows inwardly now. That in itself is a beautiful internal process of creative realignment. See? Remake. Complete and utter realignment. But the time will come when this propensity for expressing oneself outward will return. And it is only on those who are under the category of either jaded seekers, in whom this process never really truly unfolded anywhere. Right now, that life force was withered. And so they are in this army of the jaded seekers. They don't want anything from life, and yet they're completely and utterly thirsty. Thirsty, pangs, like slightly zombish, in fact, if you ask me. There's something zombish about this kind of they don't want anything from light, and yet they're just hankering for something that will bring the deliverance. That some teacher will set them free by uttering the final truth of that non-duality loop. Therefore, in this work, we start with that. You know that very well. First step is the last step, right? From get-going, we know all what this is all about, and we give ourselves to the process we call life. Life is an extraordinary process, okay? When our time comes, we've no idea. We know, therefore, that this first step needs to be introduced. So when the time comes to take the last breath, could be tomorrow, today, I'm ready because I know my status. You see? I know my status. With the cessation of the body and the departure of life force, nothing's going to change. Nothing. You see? So let's celebrate that whilst it's here. Otherwise, why was it given in the first place? So, write things, express yourself. How old are you now, Jonathan?
Getting this year 33.
33. So you're coming to that, yes, that mid-30s is, where that...
I feel that this power now coming.
Yeah, it's that plan.
It was preparation. And somewhere I still feel I kind of still recovering from those teachings that I received, that, it's all just about transcendence and this, and it's somewhere still there. And I'm so in love with this teaching, and it kind of brought all that back, that kind of, oh my God, yeah, I love this world actually, and I want to be here, and I want to express, and I want all that, and I want to serve, and I want to be completely there for that.
Exactly.
And is it just also absolutely time now to stand here and claim this and express, or is because there's still somewhere I feel that there's a lot of comfort in, okay, I escape some and I'm not interested.
Yes, of course, there's a lot of, the cop-out is characterized by psychological contract that we sign within ourselves. There is this agreement, you see? This agreement, this pact, right? So, will to be is the most precious asset. Will to be. In fact, if you studied Tantra now, you've studied Tantra with me now for a number of years, so you know the importance within that trinity. Will, knowledge, action. Will is the face of Shiva. Will. Knowledge is the instrumentality of knowing. That's Shakti. And action is that what translates into the world. You see? So will here is inferior to nothing. The will here in itself is an expression of Shiva. So will to be, this is where Nietzsche hit it straight, 2020 vision, straight in the heart of the matter. The most controversial work of Nietzsche, because it was usurped, misinterpreted by those who later masterminded the ideology of the Nazi. But the work, that late work, which he has not completed, he did not have the time. It was completed by his sisters, you know, right? You remember that? So, those of you who are familiar with the work of Nietzsche. Will to be, will to power, the work is called. Will to power. It's the most important asset. Therefore, I say again, those teachings that take away that, or trying to take away, is a crime against the very essence of why someone is here in the first place. You see? Copying out and, well, I'm not here because I don't exist. Every action already is predetermined. There's this determinism. And everything is an epiphenomena, everything. Now the science kind of like gives this insight, so this is this holographic reality. All these bits and pieces are of information to thrown into that contractual agreement to withdraw myself from expressing my will. You see? No. This is deluded and dishonest teaching, particularly given the importance of time to be alive. You see? So, therefore, whatever the remnants of how, you know, and there's a lot, you're not alone, there are many people who feel how these teachings were affected them. Watch the exchanges I had with Jake in Mexico, you know, where he was triggered by that term that I kind of flew out of my tongue, roadkill. How it made him feel like, you know, that the teachings that made him feel like the years he went through, these stages of dissociation, depersonalization. So, and it all happens always at the level of where the main impulse rises from. So when the impulse rises, and if you feel it's somehow that something casts shadow on it, you know, like the biggest shadow here is that what's the point? What's the point of it all? Dismiss it, it's tamaguna. Any inertia is ruled by that. Sattva is what promotes creativity. It shines, it's light, it's equilibrium. Sattva. And of course, a fair amount of Rajaguna is required for kicking it, for moving. But Tamaguna is to be eradicated from our mind, eradicated from that level. Tamaguna in the body is fine. Body is an expression of it. But we can't afford to have that in the mind. In other words, we can't afford to have dullness in the mind. And I'm sorry, and you know it yourself now, how some of the teachings are increased dullness. Dullness. It makes us complacent, dull, spiritual, gray, boring, and we think, well, that's it, that's all there is. Now I'm in peace. My peace. No. You know better than that. So tap into that, what you feel. Even as you're coming to your prime, you see? And the teaching here is a platform of understanding. You see the importance of it. So you take this teaching to make it your own, and let that be the audacity to express yourself. That's what is will to power. Then, see, then, and only then, you can be completely detached from the outcome of actions. Because then you have to be also a spiritual warrior. That's the samurai that I'm talking about. That's the samurai. Samurai already died in service. So therefore, seppuku now ready, but for a purpose. Action ready. Train myself every day to keep healthy spirit in the healthy body. Okay? Rise to that. Rise above circumstances. Be a man. So that when you wake up the entire world with you, and you carry that power. You see? And then this sense of detachment. So you're not affected by success or failure. You're completely giving yourself to action. So this trinity of relationship is completed beautifully. You're truly living from the place of will, you see? And the Shakti here empowers all that. And it naturally translates into action. Hence that equilateral that we have been speaking non-stop for the past 3 years now.